Alright, once again another updated Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile. This time from Burst Protocol with my updated Rokket or Bullet deck. And this is a pure Rokket deck, not Dragon Links, because screw Dragon Links. And I want to play the deck as it was intended, rather than basically play a bunch of weird stuff that kind of can go with the deck, but doesn't make it feel like the deck. AKA turning your main deck monsters into bullets for your big boss monsters. Which is basically the main playstyle deck, which will be explained through the main deck monsters. Because as you can tell, I am playing the original bullets that was originally introducing the deck, when the deck wasn't really that great until the Rokket structure deck came out. And yeah, I had this deck ever since it first came out, and I have to say, it was a pretty cool concept, especially with the idea of dragons with guns. That's why I decided to build this deck. And with the new support, even better, with way more consistency, even though it didn't exactly really need all that. But considering that we didn't get the rival support for so long, I'm happy to see it. Although a little disappointed that we didn't get a new Link 6. Instead, we got a new Link 5, as you can see in the front. But other than that, we did get some more consistency for the other summoning methods, like the Ritual and Fusion play. And speaking of Fusion, we did get a new Fusion monster for some goddamn reason, but it did add a little more consistency to the deck, so I am pretty happy with the new support. But with all that out of the way, let's just begin with the deck profile, because you're not going to understand the deck playstyle without actually going through the deck. So of course we started with the main deck, and the first lineups are going to be all what I'm going to call the Bullet Dragons, because they're all going to have the name where something Rokket Dragon. That's basically the Bullet Dragons. So starting with Magna Rokket Dragon. So all the Bullet Dragons have the same ability where when they're targeted by the Link monster, you can destroy it to activate their effect. And they also have the end phase effect where during the turn they were destroyed, as a hard one-up turn, you can special summon another bullet from your deck that is different from itself. That's basically the condition and the effect of every Bullet Dragon. And it did cause a problem where when it was first introduced, it was kind of slow because you had to wait until the end phase to bring out another bullet to reload. But in this case, Magna Rokket has the ability to target one monster your opponent controls and send it to the graveyard. Not destroy, send. So that is a big difference right there, and that's why it's one of your better bullets, and that does make a big difference. And it is also level 4 with 1800 attacks, so there is that as well. And then we go to the Silver Rokket Dragon, which this one targets one card from your opponent's extra deck and banish it, which could be one of your better going first play, because sometimes you have no bullet to target, and this is one of your better bullets to target when your opponent doesn't even have anything on the board. And the fact that you could just disrupt your opponent's extra deck when normally they only run one copy can be quite nasty. And then we go to Auto Rokket, which sends one of your opponent's spells and traps to the graveyard. Of course, not as important, but it is there if you need it. And then Metal Rokket, which destroys all cards in the same column as it was in. So basically, if it was like under the extra monster zone, you destroy everything in that one column where the extra monster zone is at. And normally that's where you want to put Metal Rokket, because of course you want to get the full value of it. And also the fact it doesn't target is also very huge. And then Shell Rokket, which destroys all the monsters in the same column and then the two zones next to it. So basically it destroys everything in the front of it, along with whatever zone that was behind it, along with the two zones next to it. That's basically what it is. So this could potentially destroy multiple monsters, which is actually what makes this one pretty nasty, especially when it makes your opponent decide on which zones to summon it to. And then we go to Explode Rokket Dragon, and just like the name implies, it explodes, which deals both players 2,000 points of damage, which you can pull a full-on revolver draw there. Although, one big side about this is that it's also a rocket that is a bullet that is also level 7, which is actually very crucial for the deck, because that's a magic level for the deck as well. And then Hollow Bullet Dragon, which is a new bullet where you can excavate the top 6 cards of your opponent's deck, banish one of them, and then put the rest on the top in any order. So essentially, you get to see your opponent's next draw, and also banish one of their key pieces potentially, which could also be very good on one of your first turn plays, and in a way, it does disrupt your opponent, which is why I kind of like this card, especially if you can actually see what's your opponent's first draw. And now to the support Rokket lineup, starting off with the Rokket Tracer. And none of these are going to be something Rokket Dragon. It's just going to be Rokket and something. So this one is still one of your key pieces due to the fact that its effect is literally once per turn, a quick effect. You can target one face-up card on the field, which can include itself, and then special summon one rocket from your deck. So one, you can destroy itself to special summon a rocket from your deck if you need to dodge something so you can destroy a bullet instead. But the main part is you use its quick effect when you activate a card, and then destroy that one activated card to special summon another rocket. And also, because the activate card wasn't negated, the effect is still activated. So say you play something like a quick launch, you play Rocket Tracer's effect, destroy the quick launch to special summon a monster, and then quick launch still activates to special summon another monster. That's basically the example I can give, but essentially, because this card doesn't negate and it's a quick effect that can destroy something on activation while still not negating the effect, it essentially gives you a monster for free, essentially. That's why this is a 3-up and still one of your essential key pieces, especially being a level 4 tuner, which has double application because we got a rank 4 exceed, and we also got a synchro. And then to one of the cards from Burst of Destiny, Rocket Caliber. This card isn't as good as it is for now because it's just for the fact that the other effect isn't very useful, but it is still a level 4 Dragon Tuner, which is still helpful. And you can special summon this card from your hand to a zone where Dark Link monster points to, so it is an additional special summon, and then you contribute it to special summon one Dark Dragon or Machine monster from your hand. This was essentially a way to special summon one of your bigger boss monsters, and if you want to go anime, you can put a Cracking Dragon, and originally there was a level 8 support that you would actually want to special summon with this, but I completely took that out for more consistency for another card. So now this is more here just for a special summon, but sometimes you will actually want to replace this card for another monster from your hand. And then we go to Rocket Recharger, which this one, when a Link monster is destroyed, you can send it to the graveyard from your hand or field to special summon another monster from your graveyard. And this is of course a useful effect to combo out with some of your monsters. Spoiler alert, some of your Link monsters have the ability to destroy themselves. Because they have the ability to destroy themselves, you can use Recharger to bring back another monster. So that's the cool part. But it's not the most necessary card, hence why this is a one-off, but sometimes it is good when you have it. And then to another new card, we got the Rocket Loader. And this one is of course an auto 3-up because on summon you can add one level 7 Dark Dragon from your deck to your hand. And it could be any level 7 Dark Dragon, which makes this card can go pricey in the future, but right now it isn't really. But the fact that you can search for any level 7 dragons is quite huge. Especially for the next effect where it does have future applications because you can banish this from the graveyard to target one monster you control and it changes to dark. Why this effect is here despite all your main deck are dark? It's because you got Borolo Dragon that can mind control your opponent's monster. The fact that you sometimes need dark materials, this is useful to use that monster as a material as well. And then we got the Rocket Synchron, because this is a recovery play, because on normal summon you can special summon one Dark Dragon from your graveyard, and of course if you summon from extra deck for the rest of the turn it has to be dark, although that doesn't matter since everything in your extra deck is dark anyway, but most of the time because this is a level 1 tuner, you summon back a level 7, hence why the level 7 is kind of important, and then you just synchro to 8. That's basically the idea. And then finally to the last rocket, the Rocket Detonator. So this one, despite its name, doesn't actually detonate. So when you have a Dark Dragon Link monster on the field, you can special summon this card. And then if you do, special summon one Dark Dragon monster from your spell and trap zone to your field. So essentially, special summon one of your equip monsters. Which with your new fusion monster, it does actually make another equip monster. So it does have its usefulness. But unfortunately, Savage Dragon is banned because Savage Dragon also equips a monster, so this card would be more useful if Savage Dragon was actually unbanned right now, which is very unfortunate. But it is there when you need it, and it's also level 7, hence why I decided to play one at least, because it does have its usefulness. And then to the last of the Rocket support, that is not Rocket in name. One is Absol Dragon, being a level 7 for one that can special summon itself from hand when you have a Rocket on the field. And also when it's sent to the graveyard and into hard once per turn, you can search your deck for one Rocket and add to your hand, which of course extends play, so you just have to play it. 3 is too many, so that's why I don't run 3, but 2 is enough. And especially there's ways to search this. And then to the other one, Nocto Vision Dragon, which is more Dragon Link support, because if a Dark Dragon monster is special summon, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if this card is used for Link material, you can draw a card. And then when your opponent activates a card or effect, while this card's in the graveyard, you can banish it and then protect your spell and trap zone. So it's just there when you need it, and it's just another special summon for more draw, and 2 different types of ways to special summon a level 7 that can give you additional effect is just very helpful. That's why I'm running 2 and 2. And then finally, Red Eyes, because it's all dragons, but you don't have to run this if you don't want to, because this deck has so many ways to special summon that you kind of don't really need Red Eyes, but I personally still kind of like it. And then to the last monster, which is not one of the regular effect monsters, which is the Borreload Ride Dragon. So you ritual summon this card with Heavy Interlock, or Heavy Trigger if you want to go by the original name. And its main effect is that when your opponent would special summon a monster, quick effect, you can negate that special summon. If you do, destroy that monster along with 1 card on your field, which could even be itself, which is fine sometimes. But if you do play Heavy Trigger, it does give it a bit of card effect protection, so you might not want to do that, although you don't play Heavy Trigger for the deck, due to the fact that this card is normally not going to be summoned. And also it's for its next effect where, while it's in the graveyard, you can target 1 card on the field along with 1 Boral or Rokket from the graveyard, destroy the target on the field, and then return the Boral or Rokket from your graveyard back to your hand. This could even return itself, which is actually very huge, but also for the fact that you're returning cards from your graveyard to recycle them back to use, which is actually the main reason why you run this card. Because while it's at the graveyard, you essentially have a 1-for-1 trade recycling engine. Technically it's free, because if you destroy a Rokket, you can reload it at the end phase. So that's why you really run this card, is so you can basically do a 1-for-1 trade to get your key pieces back. And so that's it for the monster lineup. To the spells, starting off with the main spell, which is the field spell, Boot Sector Launch. So Boot Sector Launch is, of course, the field spell. You could cut this down to 2 due to your 1 searcher for your extra deck, but I do find myself times where when this card's destroyed, you do need another Boot Sector Launch, so I do kind of like drawing it back into the 3rd one. That's the only reason why I'm running 3, but I am thinking to cut this back down to 2 just for another card. But anyway, it does have a continuous ability where all rockets you control get 300 attack and defense, and once per turn you can activate one of these listed effects, special summon 2 rockets from your hand in defense, or special summon rockets from your graveyard based on the difference of monsters of you and your opponent. So if your opponent has more monsters, like 3 more monsters than you, you special summon 3 from your graveyard, which could be a very useful effect, of course, because of the recovery play, hence why I'm running a 3rd one just in case I need to draw into it and then just recover. But essentially it's one of your most important spells, so you just have to run this. And then another important spell, Quick Launch, literally special summon a Rokket from your deck, and it also has no level restriction, so you can summon out your level 7s, but it cannot attack, and it's destroyed at the end phase. Which doesn't matter because it just ends up being link material anyway. And then the old Rokket card that you don't really need to run, but I still kind of like it because of Squid Draw, because you can destroy 1 Rokket on the field, and if you do, draw 2 cards, and you can only activate 1 of these per turn. It's just more draw power if you need it, but you don't have to run it if you don't want to. And then to a new card, Double Trigger or Double Interlock. I prefer to call it Double Trigger. So this one acts as your both Fusion and Ritual card. And that's why I kind of like this card over some of the older Fusion Ritual card. Because this one lets you either Fusion Summon or Ritual Summon by using materials from the graveyard. And of course if you Ritual Summon, it has to be equal to the level or higher than the monster that you're going to summon from your hand. But Fusion Summon doesn't matter. But this is a very nice option, especially since you can search this through one of your Link monsters. And then next up, I play the Rapid Trigger. It's a backup search, that's why I decided to run it, and it destroys 2 monsters on board to perform a fusion summon, and also gives it some monster effect protection from the extra deck, which is also very nice. And it's also quick play, which is why I also like it, but it cannot direct attack during the turn it was fusion summoned, which is a little unfortunate, but sometimes you do have a bunch of monsters on the board, and you kind of end up wanting to use them for material, hence why I do play the Rapid Trigger just in case. Although, you could arguably run 2 heavy triggers, since technically Heavy Trigger is a little better, but sometimes you do want to use those materials on the board, so that's why I decided to just run 1-1. And then, World Legacy Guard Dragon, because this card is a very good tech, especially with Rokket Tracer. The fact that you can special summon a Rokket Tracer back, and this is a continuous spell that won't get rid of your Rokket Tracer, because your Rokket Tracer can end up just destroying this card, and then Rokket Tracer just special summon another monster, is just very helpful. And then the other one lets you move one of your monsters, but you don't really need to use that effect. You just only use it to special summon back your level 4 lower dragons from your graveyard, which is most of the time going to be Rokket Tracer, and then destroy this so you could do another summon. And then finally, generic stuff. Foolish Burial, which I might end up taking out a copy of Boot Sector Launch to add a Dragon Shrine as well. But right now, so far, one copy of a Foolish card is enough. And finally, Pot of Avarice, just because you do kind of want to recycle your graveyard back, especially all the cards that you're sending to the graveyard. And then finally to the last card, which is the new card, the Barrel Reboot, which is a reference to Red Reboot, and it's a counter trap that lets you negate an opponent's activated spell or trap while you have a Rocket or Boral on the field. But you can also pay half your life points to activate this card from hand, so it does help on stopping your opponent from stopping you, or even just you going first, or your opponent going first. So there is that as well. That's why I like to run this, but it is a trap, so there is some side effects of it. But I do like the fact that I can negate some of my opponent's stuff, so that's why I have it. And now finally to the extra deck. So first off, starting from the smallest monsters, Striker Dragon. When Link Summon, search for Boot Sector Launch. Unfortunately, this is still limited, so you can only run one. And it also has a second effect where you can target one card on the field, destroy it, and then target a card on your graveyard and add it back to your hand. So you could even target itself, hence why you got Rocket Recharger, because you could always destroy this card to bring back another monster. But it's more so here just for you to search. And then next one, Quad Barrel Dragon, because you can discard one card to destroy one Link monster on the field and then special summon monsters up to the number of Link markers it has. But you cannot Link summon any other monsters for the rest of the turn that is linked to or less. So at that point, you have to only summon high Link monsters, but it's fine because this can be here to scare your opponent, and also there's sometimes monsters that you want to destroy yourself, which could end up being the Quad Barrel Dragon itself, because that one discard can also end up triggering some effects. And then I still like to run the Twin Triangle Dragon because it is a very useful card still. Requires 2 level 4s or lower dragons. And if this card's Link Summon, you can special summon one level 5 or higher dragon from your graveyard to a zone that this card points to by paying 500 life, which could end up being your Absol Router. And I do find this card very useful for higher Link plays. And then one of your first turn plays, Delindrous Dragon, because while this card's in the graveyard and you special summon a Rocket, you can special summon it, but you must banish it when it leaves the field, being a hard once per turn as well. So you summon this as a Link 2, use it as material, special summon more Rockets, and then special summon this, and then make another play. That's essentially what it can do. And it's very useful for your first turn play, so you just have to run it. And then one card I am tempted to take out, but right now is still a backup until Crimson Dominion comes out for the new Rocket card. But this is for now Booster Dragon because it lets you target one monster on the field to give it 500 attack, thus also triggering your bullets. And then when this card is destroyed, while it's a Link Summon monster, you can special summon one dragon from your graveyard, which could even be your big boss monster, which is why it was originally a nice card and it was a nice Quad Barrel Dragon target. But this card has become less useful over time, especially with more important cards. And then to a new Link 3 that definitely must run, Triz Barrel Dragon, because when this card is Link Summon, you can add one of your Rapid Trigger, Heavy Interlock, or the double trigger from your deck. A Link 3 that searches, which is also very helpful, and this definitely adds the needed consistency for the deck, especially since originally there was no way to search for your Fusion or Ritual card, and now you have a way to do it. So this is a must play immediately just for this effect. It also has a second effect where you can target one face-up card you control, along with a Dark Dragon from your graveyard, destroy the target monster on the field, and then put the other monster back to your hand, which is essentially a Link 3 version of Striker Dragon, but this one searches for your Ritual and Fusion card. And also it's a Link 3, so it has its usefulness right there, and it's just extended Link play, so you just have to run it. And into your Boral Link Force, unfortunately I am ending up taking out Guard, but I play the Sword Dragon because Sword Dragon is OTK machine, and if you guys don't remember, Sword Dragon, when it battles the opponent's monster, it halves the opponent's monster and then also gains half of the attack, which is essentially an OTK machine, and then also has a quick effect where it cannot be responded to switch to defense. It could even be your Rocket, and then after that, it can do one additional attack during the turn, and it doesn't have to be in a row, which is also very nice. So it's an OTK machine that can potentially just kill your opponent in the same turn. And it's actually your main target for your new Link monster as well, just to OTK your opponent. And the other Boral monster that you're going to summon often, the Borlo Dragon, but once Liberator Dragon comes out, this is going to get swapped out, hence why I kind of took out Guard, because Guard is not that useful, but Load is, So this one cannot be targeted by your opponent's monster effect, the other one cannot be destroyed by battle, and every Boral Link monster has its own protection. So this one cannot be targeted by monster effects, and the quick effect that cannot be responded to is the part where you can target one monster to shrink down its attack and defense by 500, and also has the ability where when this card attacks, that battling monster that it attacked can be taken control of. Kind of sucks that it has to battle into the monster, but the fact that you could just take control of it is just very huge, and you can also end up just using that monster as material as well, which is also very nice. That's why I still love Boral Dragon, because it can be very nasty. And now to your Link 5s. So first off, Revolver's ultimate Topologic, the Topologic Blaster Dragon. Essentially, it's a fusion of his previous Topologics into one, except for 0 Borals, kinda. You cannot summon monsters to this card where it points to, so if this card's in the middle, you cannot summon to the 2 extra monster zones. But if a monster is summoned to a card that this card points to, or when a monster is summoned to another link marker, so even if your opponent summons to a different link marker, you can activate one of these listed effects. But you cannot activate the same effect in the same turn. So either shuffle all monsters your opponent controls to the deck, shuffle all spells and traps your opponent controls to the deck, or look at your opponent's extra deck and banish it. So each effect can be very nasty, and it's also 3500 attack. This has actually won me some games just due to the fact that it could just nuke your opponent's board. So that's why I just love this card, and that's why I decided to run it. And then you still have to run the Boral End Dragon because it's an awesome boss monster, fusion of the 3 Boral dragons, cannot be destroyed by anything and cannot be targeted by your opponent's monster effects, so it's a combined protection, has the ability to target one monster that cannot be responded to and negate its effect, and then special summon a Rokket from your graveyard, which is always very nice, and also has the ability to attack all your opponent's monsters in a row. So yeah, very nasty boss monster that has a lot of protection. It's a better monster if you summon first, but going second, you get to summon the other Link 5, which is the new Boral Shroud Dragon. So this card cannot be tributed as the protection, which kind of sucks, and the quick effect cannot be responded to. It can only be activated during the main phase, which kind of sucks. But the effect is that you target one Rokket you control, and then negate the effect of one of your opponent's monster, and then destroy your monster. So essentially, you choose one of your monsters and then negate one of your opponent's cards. It's just too bad it has to be on the main phase. With the second effect, where in the beginning of battle, you can special summon one Link 4 Boral monster from your extra deck. So essentially, it cheats out one of your Link 4s, which is very huge because your Link Force is already pretty powerful, especially when you summon Boral Sword Dragon, which can be an OTK machine. So yeah, this card is just very good, and that's why you just kind of run it, because it's a big boss monster that just cheats out another big boss monster, although in my opinion, not as strong as Boral End Dragon, but it does have its usefulness, especially when it comes to bringing down more monsters, so that's why this card is just pretty good to use. And then finally to the last of your extra deck. So first off, the Boral Fierce Dragon, which has the ability to destroy one card you control to destroy one card your opponent controls, which could include itself, and also has the graveyard effect where you can banish it from the graveyard, and then special summon one dark monster from your graveyard, which doesn't have to be dragon, which is also very huge, but you cannot activate those effects during the turn, which is fine, but it's a useful card if you want to use it. And then to the new card, Boral Fatal Flare Dragon, which I don't understand why they would use another fusion monster, but okay. And it has less attack than the base Boral, which kind of sucks. And if this card's fusion summoned, you can add one Rokket monster from your deck to your hand. So that's why it's kind of useful, because you could fusion summon this to add one Rokket. And then if this card is sent to the graveyard as link material, you can target one card your opponent controls and destroy it. And then you can target one monster you control to equip one link monster to it, and it gets plus 500 attack. Unfortunately, Savage Dragon won't get attack from it, because Savage Dragon only gets attack from its own equipped monster. So even if you equip to Savage Dragon, but it does get some extra attack through this card's effect, so there is that. And it does help out with some beatdown, but you just use it for some extended play. And then I run Beazle because Savage Dragon's banned, so I'm just using this for now. You could use Scarlet instead. And then we got Boral X-Charge Dragon, because X-Charge Dragon is just an Exceed Boral Dragon, so that's why I run it. Has monster effect protection, and lets you special summon a Link 4 Boral monster from the graveyard by detaching material, but you can't attack directly during the turn, and you must banish it at the end phase. But yes, this card can kind of suck, but it is a Link 4 that has 3000 attack that can also summon back one of your monsters, just for some recovery payback play. That's why I decided to run it. And so that's it for this deck profile on my updated Rokket or Bullet deck, depending on how you like to say it, not Dragon Links. What do you guys think of it? What other cards would you recommend? and what other changes would you make? Overall, I really like the cards from Burst Protocol, although unfortunately a lot of the cards from Burst of Destiny is not as great now, especially since we are still running out of extra deck space, especially since we also got a new Topologic. Arguably, you can still use the Boro monster from Burst Protocol, but it's not really that great, so that's why I don't really run it. But the new support for the Rockets is just very nice, just because it plays more of Revolver's playstyle, of more using your main deck monsters as bullets for your big rockets. And it was a deck that I originally had since the beginning, just because of dragons with guns. And a lot of cool boss monsters. And now we also got a new Link 5, which makes the deck even more awesome. Unfortunately, not a Link 6 to go up against Singularity. Although I'm not exactly expecting a Link 6, it would be awesome, just because Protag and Rival can share the same type of concept monsters. I do still hope that Savage Dragon does come back, because it feels kind of weird that we don't have all 3 Boro extra decks that is not Links. So I do still hope that Savage Dragon does come back, but unfortunately, for now, no Savage Dragon. But overall, I still like the deck, especially its playstyle of using their main deck monsters as bullets. But on that, that's it for this, and see you all next time.